This is Thank Me for My Cervix. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and we do all of our Instagram lives right here. What? We do all of our interviews right here. And it's not always interviews. Sometimes it's just me talking. Also, Instagram has told on you guys when you're watching the replay, you're skipping the first minute, which, couple things. One, I don't blame you. I kind of say the same thing every time. Two, if you skip this one, you're going to feel sad because I have some interesting news that I'm going to share with you guys. And it's going to be exciting and awesome. So don't skip this now. I'm also going to try to make my intros a little faster for you guys. That way you're not skipping through on me. But I specifically remember there's certain podcasts that I do the same. So no hate, all love, I understand. But don't skip this because I'm super excited. We've been over 465, that was our goal, followers. And we said that once we reached that we were going to give away a free t-shirt. Thank me for my service t-shirt. I'm not wearing one right now. They're in my closet right now. I don't like to sleep in them. I wear them like out in public so people can see them, you know? So this is my nighttime shirt. I'm completely ready for bed. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I had a long day at work, but I did find time to take notes on family support. I feel like this is kind of one of my most important conversations because the people who need to get our help are the people sometimes that are hard to approach and they don't feel like they need the help. And sometimes like it's best to leave them like that. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to kind of go into a few acronyms that I came up with again, because you know, I love my acronyms, and it's just going to be a learning session for us. And I would love if you hop on and you see anything that kind of speaks to you. I would love for you to chime in and give some kind of backgrounds too. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm a little early. I apologize for people who are like a timely thing. I'm ready for bed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a couple minutes early. All right. So this is going to be a discussion. I want everyone to put themselves in a position where you're really close with somebody and you're noticing certain changes, and we'll go more into depth of what these changes could be. So we're just going to leave that broad for the beginning part of our conversation, and I'm going to get into the acronyms of how to approach this situation. So let's say that you've realized that someone needs to help this person and that someone might be you. So now what do you do, right? That's kind of what this conversation is going to be based on today. Some of this information may be very common, like everyone's like, oh yeah, I knew that. And some of this might be interesting and new. So I did come up with acronyms because that's how I remember stuff. So we're going to get into my first one. Hey, I went too early, I think. Anyway, so we're going to start with my first acronym. And that is going to be LEEF, but we're spelling it LEEF. So we're misspelling stuff, which is typical of me, but that's how we're going to remember it. So the L, this is how, thank you. This is how, these are the steps that you're going to do to approach the person that you feel like may need your help. And that first step is going to be listen. So this isn't just like a, hey, how are you? And kind of like a taboo conversation. You truly need to like listen to the words that this person is saying. And especially if you know them very well, you can tell if they're being honest with you or if you feel like you need to read more into it. But it's important that you know that person too when you're doing those types of things. And listening is like a two-way street. So this can be even in like an everyday conversation, you're just checking on somebody's mental health, right? You need to listen to that person. You got to make sure that conversations that you're having aren't always centered on you, based on you. And when you're asking somebody about them, that you're actually responding and listening to make sure that they know what they're saying is meaningful to you and not that you're just flipping it around back on you. Do you know what I mean? Like if you are having a conversation with somebody and they tell you a story and instead of acknowledging their story, you quickly reverse it with something that applies directly to your life. And that could be a good way to communicate with somebody. It shows that you can relate. But what you have to be careful when you're doing things like that is that you're not turning it immediately back onto yourself, and that you're still acknowledging that other person. I hope that makes sense. So that was the first one. So for LEEF is L, listen. And then the first E is going to be empathize. And that kind of goes hand in hand with listen, because that's when you can kind of make sure that you're showing them that you're understanding and you're relating, but you're not taking away from them. And that's how you show that you're being empathetic. The next E is going to be educate yourself. And it's very important, especially when it comes to mental health or any really health issues, is the basis of it is knowledge. You have to know what you're trying to accomplish, and having education on how to help those things. Like if someone is struggling with mental health and you don't know how to do anything about it, it's best sometimes to just step back and do things like, if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching the replay or watching back and you're like, okay, I'm taking the time to learn about that, you are doing the second E, essentially, because you're educating yourself on how to do it. So I feel like that's a good way to start towards more progression. And then the last letter is F, and that is find support. And what's awesome is I have, if you listen to last week's episode, I give a bunch of support options that they vary from anywhere from just other veterans to medical healthcare options. And it's just making sure that particular person, in some cases, support could just be you. You know what I mean? Like if you are that close person, and sometimes all they need is to get it off their chest, and that can help. And then sometimes you need more than that, and it's just acknowledging where you need to go. I'm going to read the comment. And maybe you don't know how to do anything to help. You can research, or if anything instant is to tell someone else about the situation. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Helping people know where to go if they feel like they need that help. Absolutely. So that was our first acronym. LEEF. Listen, emphasize, educate yourself. Emphasize? That's not right. Empathize. I'm going to start that over. Listen, empathize, educate yourself, and find support. Those are the best ways to go about helping anybody. And each of those can be broken down to whatever you need specifically. And I think that's a good step. So when you're approaching LEEF, when you're going to approach someone and doing that, how you handle yourself is super important as well. So I came up with an acronym for that, and we're going to say that's CUP. So you're going to be calm, that's the C, understanding, and patient. That's funny that I couldn't read that one, because I feel like that's probably the one that I would have most struggled with. I can see how that would be hard for people to do, but that's how, if you're approaching somebody, you have to have that strength within you to know how to approach it as well. And that's why it's important to know that I need to be calm, I need to be understanding, and I cannot be pushy. You cannot be, okay, we're going to talk about the don'ts. The acronym that I have for don'ts is as ASF, so as fuck, for those of you who like the texting lingo. But ASF stands for, these are the don'ts. These are the things that you do not do. You do not assume. You do not seclude. Do not seclude that person, and do not force them to do anything. Even if you're like, this person absolutely needs help, sometimes the more you push or force a situation, that is going to affect them negatively, and can also make them resent the help that they may need to get. And that could be worsening the situation, and that's not ever what we want to do. And what it means by don't seclude, when we go to S for seclude, it's if you're noticing that someone's behavior is changing, and we'll get into this specifically for things that you need to notice to even apply all of these acronyms that we came up with. But if you're noticing those changes, you don't want to start like not hanging out with that person, not checking in regularly, because you're afraid, like you don't want to be afraid to set them off, right? Because sometimes we feel that way. Like, man, I can tell that person is not on top of their game. I don't want to bug them, and I don't want to push them, so I'm just going to let them kind of do their thing. And again, some people might need you to let them do them things, all about knowing the person, but you don't want to go from being this person who's flooding them with love and affection and then realizing that their is changing, their demeanor is changing. And then you're like, okay, I'm backing off. Because they may need that. They may need that support. And that's why you don't want to seclude them. Even if it is just a text, like, hey, I'm still thinking of you. I'm here if you need anything. Even just that like little bit can be really helpful. And then the assume, just because somebody is like, maybe the mood change. How do I go about talking about this? Okay. Someone can be having a mood change. People can go through variations of moods. But if they're kind of the person that you're like, oh, hey, like your mood's changing, what's wrong? And they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm just tired. And then you're like, okay, no, there's something's wrong with that person. But really, they could just be tired. You don't want to read into it too much. But what the rule on that goes is you have to be able to trust your friends. And in reverse, that kind of goes when we're talking about someone who is in mental health need. Like, you should have people around you that you feel like you can reach out to like that and that know you. Hopefully everybody has that. If not, we'll become friends and I'll be there for you. Okay, so those are our acronyms. I came up with them. I'm kind of proud. Okay. I'm going to make like little pictures and that way the acronyms are saved. I'm going to read a comment. Don't assume the emotions and everything you think is what other is feeling, and don't think you can handle the same emotions or situations the same. I can't read what that says. Don't assume the emotions and everything you think is what the other person is feeling. Oh, okay. And don't think you can handle the emotions. Okay, that's important. Yeah, I like that. Sorry, that took me a minute. I had to break it down and read it. Yeah, it's good to just not assume. I feel like in order to be able to not assume, though, you have to have trust and communication with that person, because sometimes it's all about knowing that person. So yeah, I agree. It's just not good to assume. Okay, so we talked about how to handle a situation where you feel like maybe you need the support and talk to somebody, but what are the signs that we should look out for? Like, what's something important that, like, when should I talk to somebody about these issues? So the biggest one that we already kind of discussed was like the mood changes. Someone who's usually happy-go-lucky is all of a sudden sad. Tragic events can cause that. Being tired, overworked. There's so many things that can cause that. And it's just being in tune with your friends to realize if it's just a mood change or if they need help. It's just knowing them. And then withdrawals from things they enjoy. I think that's a really big thing, because even myself, I notice, like, I love art and I love painting, but if I get in like a mental health rut, I don't paint as much. And my family and close friends all can notice those types of things, and I'm constantly working on myself, though. And as long as you're doing that and recognizing yourself, I feel like it's so normal to have ruts and to have down days. It's all about being able to know that that's just what it is. It's just a down time, and it's going to be okay, and you'll get through it. And that's as long as you have that little, and as long as we can give that to people, as long as we're providing that, I feel like we can keep everybody on a good track. So change in function. So if they're like getting really good grades in school, or if they're doing really good at their job, and then all of a sudden they're having bad, like they're not doing as well. That's not necessarily like, oh, they need like that. You just need to talk to them about it and let them know that that's not what defines them. And it keeps their mood up, just to be able to acknowledge those things. Loss of concentration, all of these things, like if these are something that is all of a sudden happening, you should talk to your doctor about anyway. But these are something that we can try to notice in those that we love too. And these are just things to watch out for. Unhealthy coping. This can, unhealthy coping, and then it gave alcohol and drugs as like an example. Sometimes using drugs and alcohol can also be an additive or like make things worse. And it's just something that a lot of times people who need help with drinking will never admit that they need help with drinking. I don't know why that is. I would love to have like an alcohol expert on here to talk about that. That'd be so cool. But yeah, so those are just something to look out for. Like, especially if someone was not ever a drinker and then all of a sudden they're like getting wasted all the time. That's probably an issue that we should acknowledge. Aggressive thoughts, hurting themselves, anything like that. That's obviously that they need support. They need help. Hallucinations and delusions was the last one listed, but it was giving examples of like some delusions could be like, I feel like everyone at work doesn't like me, when really everybody at work really likes you and there's no reason to feel that way. And then obviously like hallucinations can be to the extreme where you're physically seeing like figures and stuff. All should be treated with doctor's helps for sure. So yeah, those were like the little notes that I have for tonight. Oh, something I didn't talk about. I didn't talk about the live yet. So if you're here and you're watching this, from now on, what we're going to do, Thursday night is going to be the only night that I am going to go live. Just my schedule doesn't allow for much change in that. And it's hard. Everyone's busy, right? We're all trying to make a living. It's so hard. So what I'm going to do is Thursday evenings, I'm going to talk about whatever topic we have to talk about. And then if anyone prior, I'm going to try to post the subjects that I'm going to be talking about. And if there's somebody who messages me prior saying like, hey, I would love to come on at the end and talk, I'm going to have any guests, anyone that wants to come on and talk at the end of my little conversations that I have. And we can talk about really whatever someone wants to talk about. And if they have more to add to the conversation for that evening or whatever it is, that way it kind of is all on one day. And then I can upload audio and it will just be kind of a one hit once a week type thing, more structured, which I think will be great for us. So yeah, that's what we got this week. It's a quick one and that's okay. Just a little touch on. I appreciate all of this and I'm going to get this audio on as soon as possible for my YouTube and Spotify listeners. So thank you guys. Bye.